Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Keylingo Live. My name is Frederick Marx and I'm going to be your host for the next 45 minutes or so. Today is another episode of our series called Trend Talks, and we developed this series some time ago. We've had a lot of really interesting guests, and this series is about diving into trending or relevant topics within the language experience industry. Each episode offers an engaging and insightful exploration into what's going on. We could be talking about viral posts, and definitely we're always talking to influential voices shaping the translation landscape. So we're going to be dissecting a really important topic today. And our goal of this episode is to provide a platform not only for our guests today, who I'll be introducing in a moment, but also to you. This platform, this episode, this series is really inviting our guests, the ones that are watching the episode, to interact with us. We're going to be having one of the most influential voices that you can have in the entire language experience industry. And here's your opportunity kind of to have a one-on-one or a one-on-many with a conversation with him. Hopefully we'll have a lot of folks chiming in with comments and questions that we can talk about. So let me take a moment to introduce our esteemed guest today. You all know him. You've probably seen the LinkedIn post. His name is Charles Campbell, and he is the founder and sole owner of TBO. Fun fact, TBO wasn't always TBO. It used to be SBO, but they didn't use the acronym back then. It was Spanish back office. And I'm giving away my age and how long I've known Charles. I've known him for 20 plus years. And TBO, as we all know, has grown tremendously. They've got offices in Argentina, Peru, Ukraine, Vietnam, Mexico. And Charles, as I'm sure you probably know, is originally from New Zealand. He's also a globetrotter. He's traveled all over the world, but he calls South America, specifically Argentina, home, and he has done so for the last 26 years. Charles is a frequent speaker at public events and conferences. He's made presentations from Berlin to Buenos Aires and even Rio to Rhode Island, San Antonio to San Francisco, even Wiesbaden and Zanzibar, if you can believe it. Charles is the founding board member of Juntos, which just took place. Maybe we have some guests on the show today or with us on the show today that attended that conference. And Charles studied Spanish, and he was obviously tops in his class. We all know that about Charles. And he's also done graduate courses at Harvard University and University in Buenos Aires, Universidad Austral. So with that, I would like to welcome my friend and business associate, Charles Campbell. Welcome, Charles.
Gosh, that was quite an introduction, Frederick. Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here. It's so nice to have this conversation with you and spend a little time with you diving into what is a topic that is something that is of extreme interest to me and probably interesting to a lot of people in the language experience industry. And specifically, it's who is winning the future of work. Is it remote workers, hybrid workers, on-site workers? We're going to be diving into that topic over the next 45 minutes. But first, we want to get started with a little bit of fun, something that we call ping pong. So I'm going to ask the very adept producers of the show to get the ping pong paddles up and get ready to play. You know, because you've been here at my house, that I enjoy ping pong. So here we go. We're going to play kind of a remote version of this. So here we go. Describe TBO in 3 words.
Gosh, well, that's 2 words. So I only got one left. Community. So community, talent, and teams. That's us.
That's great. I do believe that's a good description. If you could work anywhere, where would it be?
Oh gosh, I mean, I would never choose one specific location to work. In your generous introduction, you mentioned that I'm widely traveled. My father lives on the north shore of Oahu in Hawaii, and that is a wonderful place.
Yes,
I was trapped there in the pandemic, one Southern Hemisphere winter for 8 weeks. It was an awful place to be trapped.
Yeah, trapped.
That's definitely one place. Also, the thing is that the rest of the world has done their work day by the time you get started. So whatever was up is up, and whatever is down is down. It's too late for you to make much of an impact.
Absolutely.
So Hawaii is definitely one of my favorite places on this planet. But then I do love cold, fresh, crisp locations as well. And I'm a big fan of Patagonia, Argentina's vast southern region. It's a little akin to Canada or Alaska in the sense that you have beautiful forests and lakes, but it's also very, very sunny. So it's quite different from my home country, New Zealand, in that regard. New Zealand in Maori is Aotearoa, which means the land of the long white cloud, because it's always cloudy in New Zealand.
Wow.
And I'm a sunlight man myself. So yeah, let's hang out in Norway, but in July, not in October. So I couldn't choose one particular place, but Costa Rica is also high on the list, and I've been told that Portugal is a must visit. I haven't been there yet.
Well, you are a true citizen of the world, my friend. So I can definitely see you in any one of those places being completely comfortable. And I would, before I ask you this next question, I want to ask the audience, since we just talked about where it is that we would like to live and work and just be, where are you today? So drop us a comment and let us know where in the world you are today that you're watching us from. That'll be an interesting to see. If TBO had a mascot, Charles, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, what a question. I mean, I like Siamese cats, but I can guarantee you that we've never engaged in a serious discussion at the office about having a mascot, but it's actually a cool idea, and we could have costumes made. And I haven't thought about that one, but a Siamese sounds cool to me.
How about an octopus? You've got your tentacles everywhere. I think that'd be a good mascot for you guys.
There you go.
Awesome. Wow, we've got somebody from Barcelona. That's great. Thank you for joining us. Buenos Aires, Córdoba. Okay, this is one of my favorite questions, Charles. What is your guilty pleasure snack at work? Or just, you don't have to even think about it at work. What is your guilty pleasure snack? And
I don't actually snack, but I do drink coffee quite a bit. So here's my beautiful coffee mug right now from Korea. So I love to snack on coffee, but I'm not a picky eater in terms of eating during the day. I actually go for quite a long time without eating at all, and then I eat.
Well, I thought you might say the McRib sandwich from McDonald's.
I haven't been to McDonald's for a very long time, unfortunately.
Yeah, here we go. Stay away from that one, but it's a wonderful guilty pleasure. Okay, last one, I think. What is your leadership style, Charles?
Gosh, that is a more profound question indeed. I mean, I've always viewed myself as being kind of like a teacher in the sense that I try to cultivate people and help them grow, help them figure it out on their own, help them give the tools to work things out. Doesn't always work. That's for sure. But I'm a big believer in the responsibility of leaders for those that they lead. Of course, the follower is the person that legitimates the leader. A leader without followers is just someone on a soapbox. So it's important to have followers, but also I think the word leadership sometimes other people in the organization are leaders, and I'm learning from them. I mean, just because you are the leader doesn't mean that you aren't learning from other people, that you aren't implementing decisions that other people have made. It's a team effort. There's a hierarchy, there's a structure, but it takes a community to get things done. If I was doing it all myself and I wasn't delegating, or if I was authoritarian, the company would be trapped in a no growth or small size. So definitely, I wouldn't say I'm aloof, but I do believe in delegating and letting people get things done. And I will tell you that I struggle with people who need a lot of attention, because I've got 4 kids and travel a lot, and a lot of different things, many irons and many fires. So people who need a lot of attention are not going to get it. That's enough right. For me. So they have to have other leaders to look up to as well.
Well, I've been watching you lead your organization for 20 plus years, and I can definitely say that you have a leadership style that is one that I admire, insofar as you do empower the people that work with and for you to make decisions. You give them the tools, and then you let them do their thing. And that has enabled you to become the world traveler and leader and speaker. All the while, TBO is just running like a top in the background. So congratulations. You've got an amazing leadership style, and it's a pleasure to know you and work with you. And I'm just looking over here in the comments. We've got, hey, there's Chad from Canada. How you doing, buddy? So glad you dropped in. And Chris from Minsk. Oh my gosh, we got more in Cordoba, Argentina. So we hope that more folks will drop in and see where they're from. So we're about to get into the meat of our conversation here, Charles. And I'm excited to have this conversation with you, because you're a big chunk of your business is people. You're placing talent in different organizations around the world. You manage a large group of people. And so this topic of who is winning in terms of the style of work that they're choosing, whether that be a remote strategy, a hybrid strategy, an on-site strategy. I know you love to read newspapers, and you're well informed about what's going on around the world. And I'm sure you noticed that companies like JP Morgan and Starbucks and Amazon all had RTO, or return to office, mandates earlier in the year. And that created a lot of news. Folks were upset. People had, during the pandemic, moved from city centers to places that they thought that they would just have a better quality of life, living far away and then logging in. But now that the pandemic's over, those companies are now calling those people back. And I've got some of my own thoughts on this issue, but I'm excited to hear what you have to say. And this part of the conversation, we'll call it the big debate. And the first question is, what's really behind the return to office push? Are companies bringing employees back for productivity or control? Do office mandates boost collaboration or just frustrate workers? What do you think?
It's a very difficult question to ask, because there's different reasons at different companies and different organizations. There is a kind of dastardly tone to forcing people to come back to the office in some organizations. Some organizations have been using it as a way to clean house on the number of people on their payroll. Mm-hmm. Saying, you must come back to the office after 2, 3, 4 years, and thereby producing an exodus of talent in order to lighten their payroll. Okay. And if that is a legally valid option for them, then I guess they can use it. I'm not going to name names, but I know some organizations that have done that. And I do believe that that is not the route that I would ever travel. But, it depends on the challenges that each organization is facing. I will tell you that I believe that when things are complicated, there's nothing like being face to face. And I will personally strangle my children if they go to a virtual university instead of a face to face university. But unfortunately, it may be a reality. I have children of all ages. Maybe in a reality by the time my children are all through university, that virtual learning on a university level is the norm, and a face-to-face university is some kind of elitist thing from the past that only rich people can afford. I don't know. What I'll tell you is that I think that face-to-face interaction is irreplaceable in the sense that if you've had a lot of face-to-face interaction with your team and then you go remote, that's easier. But if you start out remote, I don't believe that you will be able to create the same amount of value in all situations that you would be able to do face-to-face. There's also things that you can't do from a distance in the same way. There's many things. It's so much better to give someone a hug when a family member is lost than to give them a virtual hug. If you want to have an argument, it's much better to have an argument face to face than virtually. I mean, I could just go on and on. So I think that remote work is cool. I'm not always sure that remote work done on Fridays from really groovy locations like the beach or the ski field is actually remote work. It's more like remote work. But if you work by objectives and you're meeting your objectives, then I guess managers either look the other way or they test you by saying, yeah, let's have a meeting at 2:00 in the afternoon on a Friday to discuss the latest KPIs and see whether you're actually going to respond. I don't know. There's no right or wrong answer. Personally, I would love for all of us to be at the office. I would love it, but it's just not realistic. People have moved away. And also, you've got a range of talent that you could never reach from any location. I don't know what that means for downtown city locations. I just don't know. I also think in the language industry, there's been a lot of remote work promoted by employers to reduce costs in terms of office space without necessarily looking into the costs of remote work in terms of all sorts of different things like software licenses you need. And I don't know, it's a long list. But, we could go on and on. I don't think there's a right answer or a wrong answer, but I can tell you what I personally enjoy is sitting down with my coworkers and hashing out whatever those difficult topics are, generating new ideas. If I want to hire someone, I want to do it face to face. If I want to fire someone, I want to do it face to face. If I want to congratulate someone, if it's just the same old, yeah, cool, remote. But, there's nothing worse, for example, than remote working when your neighbor starts mowing their lawn.
Yeah. Well, I think you packed a lot into that answer, Charles, and there's a lot that I can agree with. Like, I think most people will get on board with this, that the richest type of interactions are face-to-face interactions. That I think it's kind of an objective fact. It'd be hard to argue that any sort of remote interaction is more rich than a face-to-face interaction. Also, as I've wrestled with this concept, I have a young son that recently graduated from college, and my desire for him was that he start out in an office environment. And he got a job and he works in an office. Why did I feel that way? Well, I think that's kind of how I came up, and I was able to watch and my coworkers that had more experience than I did. I was able to identify those in the office that were succeeding and those that weren't, and kind of choose behaviors of how I wanted to develop my own professional style. And I found mentors in the office, also lifelong friends, and eventually my wife I found in the office. And so there are a lot of benefits to being in the office. And I think what we're trying to unpack a little bit here with this question is around the concept of productivity or control. And I think we all read, and I think you used the word dastardly, and I think you could apply other terms to this as well. When companies were beginning to do things like counting badge swipes to see how many people had, see if you had come into the office. I even read an article in the Wall Street Journal once that said companies had put sensors in their home office chairs so that they could see how long that they were sitting there. And so, coming from my organization, where we have learned a lot over the years about developing goals and objectives and KPIs, I couldn't help but have this conversation with myself about, why don't these organizations do a better job of developing KPIs and goals and things of that nature, as opposed to tracking badge swipes and putting sensors in chairs? It seems like a much more productive way to manage a remote workforce. And so the other thing that you said that I think is amazing, and I'm such a better person for this fact of life in the language services industry, is that talent is all over the world. And I've been lucky enough to be able to hire and work with people in lots of different places and benefit from their points of view and their worldview and their culture. And so in that respect, I don't think that you can kind of recreate that if you're just going to work in, I don't know, pick a city. But if everybody's from that city, that's hard to do, because having a global, more cosmopolitan worldview comes from interacting with people from all over the world. And so, like you said, I don't think that there's a right answer to this question, but I think there are situations in which it just really works. And at Keylingo, everybody knows that's probably on this call a little bit about Keylingo. We embrace the remote work structure. I'm married to a person that works in corporate America, and they embrace the office culture. And so it just depends. There's a lot of variables there and no right answer. As you said, choose for yourself. I'd love to see some comments here in the comment section about what you think about this. And please remember to follow. You're going to have opportunities to interact with Charles's LinkedIn page. I hope that you'll connect with him, connect with Translation Back Office, connect with Keylingo. We always want to hear from you. We're trying to create a platform and talk about subjects that are interesting to you. Hello, Ludmila from Valencia, Spain. That's awesome. Emmy says, that's a very good point. There is a significant difference between remotes for consolidated teams and those for new ones. So great comment. Thank you, Emmy. All right, let's move on to the next question in this debate. Okay, what is the most unexpected challenge you have faced in remote or hybrid work?
Well, with remote work, it's all sorts of things that can go wrong, like being in the middle of a Trend Talks with Frederick Marx and having a package delivered to your door, for example.
All right.
Or any number of things like that. The distractions that take place in the home environment are significant. Whether they be family members, neighbors, people wishing you well, but just doing their things, like a neighbor coming to knock on your door and ask if you've got a couple of lemons to spare, right when you're in the middle of a webinar. So there's all sorts of things that can go wrong, I think, with remote work, because remote work is not prepared to be a work environment naturally. I mean, there's different levels of remote work. You have a person who has their own sophisticated home office where the children know they're not supposed to go. I don't know. I just imagine some writer in the 19th century writing away in their home office, where you would get the death penalty if you bothered him or her. And they're protected by the rest of the household who knows that you're off limits. That's not the reality for most of us. You get a FedEx delivery, you get a neighbor knocking on your door, people showing up, barking dogs, and so forth. So in the office, however, you got other things like office workers want to tell you their latest drama, their wins. You can't go to the office and behave like you're at home, where you just say, I'm sorry, I got a webinar right away. I'm not saying hello to anybody. I'm just going straight into that room, lock myself in the room and do my webinar, and then, come out 2 hours later and start being nice to people. So there's ups and downs. I would say that hybrid work is what people are going to prefer to do. It gives them flexibility to travel, to be parents, mothers and fathers, to attend events. But that depends on the nature of your work. I mean, if you were a barista at Starbucks, you're not getting the option of hybrid work. Mm-hmm. Doctors are not getting the option of hybrid work. I mean, not everybody has this choice. So if you have the choice, then you are lucky. You're part of the new economy of people who may be able to make certain choices with their lives that other people cannot. Mm-hmm. If you're flipping burgers at the grill, not remotely. So, and there are many notions of people inventing ways to be less productive at the office too. The old smoke break, where you go out of your 19th floor office, go down to the ground, walk 50 meters, and then have a cigarette, and then have a second cigarette, and then waltz back. There's the old telephone call to your girlfriend in the Czech Republic for 20 minutes. There's reading the newspaper. I don't know. There's reading newspapers online at the office. Sure. Happens. All those, sports newspapers that people love to read at the office. So whatever. There's productivity. It's a hard one. And of course, the larger your organization, the more difficult it is. Management by objectives, I think, is the way out of it. Having KPIs. If you get in a situation of distrust where you need a sensor in somebody's chair, then you're definitely in the wrong situation. No doubt about that. And I think that those sorts of measures of control backfire, and they just demonstrate mistrust. But, remote work is governed by laws and regulations in certain locations around the world. And there is a tendency also that you work remotely and therefore you're always available. That would be more common in the United States as compared to, for example, Western Europe. I don't know, going back to Hawaii, I mean, surf's up, nobody's available. There are ups and downs. It depends on what you do and how you do it and who you do it for. I would agree with one of the comments that was in the text box there, that if you come from a mature, consolidated team where trust has already been being built up, it's far easier to go remote. When the pandemic hit, TBO had a huge office with lots of people working on site that we had recently rented and refurbished. And we went remote in 48 hours. I remember one person had left a book at the office that they desperately wanted back. When the pandemic's over, just read it online in the meantime. There's no right or wrong answers. Personally, I am definitely most effective when creating value and resolving crises when I'm at the office. Or the office can be where you meet 2 or 3 coworkers face to face. You're not at the office. You're at the Starbucks halfway between her house and your house. I don't know. I would never go back to having one huge office downtown where everybody had to go in, wearing a shirt, and I would never go back to that.
Yeah, I think when I look back on my career, Charles, I think that the lack of options or flexibility in the office environment were one of the main driving factors that resulted in me choosing a life of entrepreneurship and building a company that embraced a remote lifestyle or work style. And, I did not fit well in an office environment where I was expected to be in the office from an arbitrary period of time, which most of us know is around 8 to 6. You were expected to be in the office. And I did not like that over long periods of time. I wanted flexibility. I wanted to be able to choose, because I found that I was creative at different times during the day. And so being stuck at an office when I knew that I would rather be doing something else was torture to me. And so I figured out my way out of it. But I will say, in answer to this question, what's the most unexpected challenge you've faced in remote or hybrid work, is that drawing a line between where work ends and life begins. That has been the biggest challenge for me. I've been an entrepreneur for 20 plus years, and I think that there's always been gray around that. Like I will work on weekends, I'll work in evenings, and sometimes my wife will ask me, I thought, you're finished for the day or whatever. But I choose, and this is a choice that I think a lot of professionals make. I think the value of being able to work anywhere at any time trumps being able to, pun not intended, trumps being able to, or being forced to be in an office between this period of time that we all know as the workday, and then having a clear line of sort of shutting down the computer and so on. So for me, it was trying to figure out where to put that line. And that's a challenge that I face in my own remote and hybrid work life. Let's see. We've got a great comment here from Camila Casanova, who I know very well. I believe that companies also shape their inner culture depending on the way they collaborate, remote or in person. I also think you'd get used to that as quote unquote normal, or the way to get things done. Great comment. Thank you, Kami. Okay, let's move on to the next question. As usual, these conversations, they fly by. And Charles, thank you so much for your insights and just your willingness to be here today. I truly appreciate it. And I just want to give people an opportunity to connect with you. I think that our producers have the ability to put a QR code on the screen to connect with you, to connect with TBO. TBO, if you didn't know, stands for Translation Back Office. I think everybody that I've seen here knows that very well. And connect with Charles. Also connect with Keylingo, and please continue to interact with us in this conversation. It's a really interesting one, and we've got the best in the business joining us today. So let's move on to the next question. How do different cultures, this is a great one for you, Charles, because you've interacted with so many different cultures, and I think your shirt is actually from a different culture. Maybe you can point that out to the audience. But how do different cultures approach hybrid work? Do certain cultures prefer structure over flexibility? How do time zones and cultural expectations shape remote collaboration? If you could share, sir.
So the shirt is Vyshyvanka, which is from Ukraine. I was in Ukraine early June last year. Mm-hmm. I took a bus from Warsaw over the border. It was an amazing experience, surreal.
You're a brave soul.
Very, very difficult to describe. And I spent 4 or 5 days in Ukraine and had a wonderful time visiting friends and coworkers there that I had been working with for years. So yes, that was an amazing experience for me. And I've just been daydreaming about it, and I've forgotten your actual question.
You'll see it there on the screen, my friend.
Yeah, hybrid work. I mean, okay. in order for there to be hybrid work, there actually has to be an office. So a lot of companies have gotten rid of the office, and there is no more office. And I don't believe in that. I don't believe in there being no place for you to interact. There's got to be a center of gravity. That said, hybrid work, it needs to have responsible, hardworking people to make it work. If hybrid work is going to be about me working from the beach, then I'm not sure that that's going to add value for the company. Or people confuse couch surfing with remote working. Couch surfing is not remote working. I mean, there are different ways of doing it. Like there's 2 days in the office a week, 1 day in the office a week, 3 days in the office a week. The leaders have to lead by example. So many companies used to have a system where the leaders would be out playing golf on Fridays and the workers would be working. Mm-hmm. And you say, where is the boss? Playing golf, as if the boss was kind of some kind of lazy, aloof, disentangled person and the worker was doing the real work. Whereas maybe the boss had been up to 3 a.m., because that's the thing. You were judged on what people could see. If you took work home, were you stealing files or were you taking them home to do some extra work when they were paper files, So there's all different ways to look at this. There's just many different ways to skin this cat. But personally, I think it is a plus, especially in an industry like ours where we like to travel. I believe that, we're selling globalization, we're selling localization, interpreting translation. We're dealing with languages and cultures. We're building bridges. We're connecting people. You can't just always be in Calgary or Ohio or Wellington, New Zealand, or Mombasa in Kenya. You've got to move around. You've got to be aware of cultures. You've got to be up with the play about what's going on in the world, as much as possible. So I think that, in the past, if you were away from the office, no work got done, or you did work, but it was totally disconnected when you were on your business trip to Singapore or Russia or Chile. You would work on your laptop and then asynchronously you might submit a report at a later date, and everything was asynchronous. That also meant that you could have a bad day, like be sick, and people, would say, "Oh, he's on a sick day." Whereas now it's like, "Okay, I know you're about to have a kidney transplant, but can you please get back to me on this message?" There's a joke about being out of the office in Europe means I'll answer you in 6 weeks. I'm going on vacation, and being out of the office in America means, I'm about to have a kidney transplant, but what do you need? Different
cultures definitely approach hybrid work in different ways, and there are different expectations revolving hybrid work. And I do think, in the United States, it's becoming less and less an acceptable way to work. More and more companies are moving into the office, but I have to just kind of I want to give a shout out to my team, because I think that we have worked super hard over the years to create an environment that is both connected and global at the same time. And the team has created that culture. We started it in Córdoba, Argentina, and we've expanded around the world. And people have gotten really good at seeing who fits into that culture. And it's just been amazing to me. And we do find plenty of opportunities to get together and have rich experiences with one another. Well, Charles, with the last few minutes available to us in this conversation, I want to move into what we call our spicy discussion. And this is going to be short, but I didn't use the word spicy. Our esteemed producers came up with that. But this is agree or disagree, rapid fire. Okay, so this is going to be the last thing we're going to do before we close the call. And I just want to, in advance, thank everybody for joining us today. And please take advantage of connecting with Charles and connecting with TBO. So here we go. Agree or disagree. fully remote companies will outperform in-office ones. Agree or disagree?
I would say I disagree.
Got it. Okay. Hybrid work is the worst of both worlds.
No, I disagree with that too.
Okay. 2 disagrees. What do you guys think in the chat? Let we go. Okay. Amy disagrees. Great. Ale disagrees. Great. Okay. Next one. Agree or disagree? A 4-day work week is the real future of work.
Totally disagree.
All right. Wait, man, nobody's agreeing here. All right. Good stuff. Okay. Next question. Companies want employees back to justify empty offices.
No, I disagree with that too. It's not that simple.
Okay. Man, we've touched a nerve here. We've got a lot of disagrees here. Everybody's disagreeing. So I think that we're all on the same page. And with that, Charles, we're going to move into the close here. I just want to, first of all, thank you once again for your time. I want to invite the audience to continue to share your opinions on the LinkedIn pages of TBO to Keylingo. Tell us what you think. We're trying to create these series and these events to provide you with some interesting content and topics of discussion. Charles is, as you all know, one of the best in the business. He's a great ambassador for the language services industry, and I'm super happy to call him my friend as well. And I can't wait for us to be together in Portugal soon. So thank you so much, Charles, for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Frederick. It's gosh, you and I could talk for hours. There's so much to talk about, so many things going on in our industry and in our communities, in the wider world. These are spicy times. Lots to think about. It's definitely not business as usual for anyone at the moment, and I think there are tremendous opportunities on a business level, on a personal level. But it does require us to be sharp. And I think being sharp is not something you can achieve on your own. You need a community. You need people to bounce ideas around with. So when you are remote working and you're on your own, think about how much fun it would be to be at the office bouncing those ideas around, at least a couple of days a week with some friends and coworkers. But then, on the other end of the spectrum, you've got that TV series, The Office, to tell you all about the stuff that can go on in offices. So there you go. But that's just a reflection of society in general, like The Simpsons, I guess. Awesome. Thank you, Frederick. I really enjoyed this.
Awesome. Have a great day. And thank you all for joining us, audience. We really appreciate your thoughts and your comments. And let's keep the conversation going. Take care.